The Syrian refugee crisis, the UN's continuing struggle to get humanitarian aid into the besieged areas of Syria. Reporting from the United Nations, I'm Frank Uciardo with this UN update. More than 250,000 Syrians have died in the 4.5 years of armed conflict, which began with anti-government protests in the spring of 2011. The UN efforts to supply aid to the refugees have been impeded by a lack of access to the victims in Syria's conflict zones. The UN Security Council once again debated the issue of getting help to the refugees, with the Syrian regime being blamed for a lack of cooperation.
We've spoken repeatedly here and elsewhere about the atrocities and inhumane conditions that the Syrian people have been forced to endure, all of them man-made, and yet the situation just keeps getting worse. The parties to the conflict just continue to block humanitarian aid from reaching those in need, and here I stress particularly the Syrian regime, a regime that sits here at the United Nations as a member state. Out of a total of 113 interagency convoy requests that the UN sent, this UN member state approved and completed only 13.
UN humanitarian aid officials in Geneva also took aim at the Syrian government's failure to allow unimpeded access to the civilians caught in the middle of the conflict between the warring parties.
Enough is enough. Syrians can no longer continue to pay the price for political failure.
Number one, end the starving of civilians in besieged areas. Number two, end attacks on schools, homes and hospitals. And three, tear down this Berlin Wall of hindrances between us as humanitarians who want to help people who have a right to get the help we can offer.
Access is our main problem. Access for the health workers to get to the work, access for patients to reach a health facility, to cross checkpoints, and also sometimes under a rain of bombs and shooting, they have to try to get to these facilities to get care.
So now it's round 3 of the Geneva peace talks on Syria. United Nations envoy Staffan de Mistura invited representatives from both of Syria's 2 main opposition groups. The question is, who is attending, and will this round of negotiations gain traction towards an end to a civil war that's forced more than 11 million people from their homes in Syria? UN Update, reporting from the United Nations, I'm Frank Uciardo, Arise News.